Gun Network. Guns in the 701. Guns in the 701.
Straight talk and American grit.
701 Nation.
Your community, your country, your say.
Blackbeard Logic.
Friday nights, sharp minds, sharper debate.
And Sunday Sportsman Devotion with Vance Bishop.
Faith for the field and stream. Sunday, 7 a.m. Mountain, 8 a.m. Central.
Powered by LAUER Auto Repair and Kalon's Auto Service. Additional support from Horton's LaserCraft, Slash H Ranch, and Little Angry Man Firearms, LLC.
All right. Good evening, everybody. I'm back, I guess you could say. Clayton Peterson, GAT701. Thanks for everybody who was filling in, Jamie, and we had Leon in there, and I sure appreciate that. Again, that was our little promo for Guns in the 701 Network. Got a good show for you tonight. I'm going to talk a little bit about Friends of NRA. I have a special guest joining us at the top of the second hour, Jason Wilson. He's also a brand new board member for the NRA program. They call it NRA 2.0. As you remember, I used to be a field rep for the National Rifle Association. Jason is the owner of Lucid Optics. I've known him a long time. By the way, has a great, and I'm talking a great long-range clinic if you're ever looking to brush up on things. So got a great show coming up with you. Of course, I'll have a happy ending chronicle at the end of the show. We got going to be jam-packed, I guess. I got a lot of things to talk about, especially upcoming hunting season, game and fish, stuff like that. But before we get on going with that, let's get our intro going here. And here's my sister doing the national anthem just for us here at Guns in the 701. Let everybody get tuned in here, and we'll have a great show. All right, I don't know what happened here, everybody, but good evening. A little technical difference. I guess I'm a little rusty after being gone for a month. Again, thanks to everybody who's joining in here. Hey, Eric, good to see you. It looks like you got a different, must be on YouTube here. Good evening from the Dakota. Gene Cox, the mayor of Mobridge. Good evening. Glad to have you, Gene. And, of course, Brian Warner. Hey, fellow MVs, you got to love it, right? You got to love it. Hey, Justin, this is you know what? The 701 Nation, Guns of the 701. Jamie's doing the 701 Nation thing, but we're all the same team here. So it's just the same. And like I said, those guys have been filling in for me for about almost a month, trying to figure out what's wrong with my son, some medical issues. We're up and down. Today was a better day. Yesterday wasn't such a great day. So we're working on it. We're making a little progress. But, yeah, it's been one of them trying things. Hey, Dan Brown. He's from the Western Edge over there. Of course, Dan's a great man. Retired law enforcement, was a huge member of the Friends of NRA. They're chaired it for many, many years there in Dickinson. So thanks, Dan, for all your work there. Again, as I said before, we got rolling here. And I had a little technical difficulty with the intro. I'm basically going to have one of the brand new NRA board of directors on. His name is Jason Wilson. Like I said, he was the owner and the founder of Lucid Optics, and we had a lot of his stuff in our packages back then. A lot of you guys who were at the Friends of NRA will remember that. So Jason's going to be joining me at 8 o'clock. So, you know what? I'm hoping he can give us some answers a little bit on what's going on, and I think the NRA is probably in a better place right now. They actually call it NRA 2.0. They even got a website out there, nrapresident.com, to be very transparent with its membership. You better be a member, though. You have to have your member number to log in there. But this guy is doing a fantastic job from what I can see. And I'm looking for big things out of there. I'm very, very excited to see what is happening with the NRA. I've been following them, and I think they're on the right track. So with that, everybody, hey, good evening, DJ. He's down in Rapid City, another Friends of NRA guy from back in the day. And I see, speaking of that, just quickly, we have a Friends of NRA, and I'll plug this a couple times, Friends of NRA event coming up in the Piedmont area. Actually, I think it's Rapid City, but Piedmont area coming up here on November 7th. It's a free open house at the range, and it looks like to me it's a big gun bash giveaway. So you buy a ticket, but you can come in and you can go Nate Brown. You can contact him. He's the field rep. He's out of Wyoming, 307-823-3948. And if you hit the friendsofnra.org website, you should be able to see, or the friendsofnra.com. Anyway, hit the NRA website. You should be able to see all the events. Bismarck, Mandan, they already had their event, so no more events for the rest of the year in North Dakota, and there's nothing else scheduled in South Dakota. So anyway, I think we got all of those things taken care of. Hey, Mr. Blackbeard. Hey, Leon, glad to have you listening. It's good to be back. I was excited to do this show tonight, and I'm going to jump right into it. So, game and fish. Let's just put it this way. I had an interesting call yesterday from a gentleman, and it has to do with gratis tags. This has been a problem, as we all know, that the trader Sean Cleary, Senator Sean Cleary, District, I believe it's 35 in Bismarck, he's the one that brought forth the backcountries bill of the hunters and anglers. Trust me, they're no friends of ours. And essentially got it passed, took 50% of the gratis tags away from the landowners. That's essentially what happened for antelope season. And it did happen in my unit. I happen to be one of the people who did not get a tag because they took that 50% threshold, and the gratis tag applicants, I guess you'd say, essentially reached that 50+%, and I did not draw. Both my sons did, but I shut it down, and until that law changes, I'm not opening it back up. And that was the result. From what I understand, I heard a lot of people upset as they were out trying to find land, trying to get on, because they lost access after the landowners couldn't hunt their own land. And that's what this comes down to. So that's just one thing. The call I got from a gentleman, and it's ongoing investigation. So essentially, well, we're not going to give any names. We're not going to go into details. I plan to have him on to talk about this, but he harvested a deer, filled his gratis tag, and this is the problem with trusts. So he owns a quarter within the trust, and then that's a family trust, which he's also part of. But he had a gratis tag for the, for his one quarter. The way it sounds, this deer that he took probably was on the trust land, which he's also a part of. And I've always had troubles with this, that if you form a trust, you only get one tag. So whether it's 150 acres, the minimum for a gratis tag, or it's 150,000 acres that you put into your trust from various reasons, protect it from probate, that's a whole nother story. Protect it from everything as far as what can happen with family members or others trying to change your will, because a will really don't mean anything, and a trust is probably the way to go. When you do that, you only get one gratis tag. One person can have one gratis tag for the entire trust. Well, that's a bunch of crap, really. And they always claim that, well, it's going to stop from people from coming in. Really? No, it's not. As a non-resident, you can't get a gratis tag. You have to be a resident from the way I read it. And then you also have to pay the out-of-state license fee if you want to hunt upland birds. So, I mean, there's really nothing that's going to help you get a gratis tag in the state of North Dakota by just buying land. So that's bunk. The other thing that they claim is that it's gonna hurt people in a trust, and everybody's gonna be able to get one. Well, no, you leave it at the same 150 acres. Now, I don't see where that's an issue. You can do that right now. That's what we do. I only put 2 quarters on that I like to hunt. Both my sons, they got a couple quarters they hunt, and you can actually do that. So every 150 acres, my son gets one, and my other son gets one, and then I get one for my other 2 quarters that I hunt primarily. Well, you can do the same thing in a trust, but you can't. We need to change that law, revisit it. Actually visited with a representative today on it. Got a couple senators we'll talk to, see if we can even have that be on the radar in the 2027 legislative session. We'll see. I'm not sure. I imagine it's going to be an uphill battle. Everything in the state legislature seems like it is, and it's unfortunate because it shouldn't be that way. It truly should not be that way. And when it comes to landowners and it comes to being able to hunt their own land, let's face it, everybody. Without the landowners in a state, the estimates vary, but let's say it's 93 to 95%. I've heard up as far as 97. When you have that going on in your state, you need the landowners to essentially be working with you. If you don't, all the public land that's available is not going to work for you in your complete management plan. And it's just driving wedges farther in. So this gentleman that called me on this, I told him right away he should seek counsel. He's going to need it as far as that goes. But the way you'll love this. He's had that deer for over a year, maybe even 2, it sounded like, on his wall. There was no issues, no problems, nothing going on. He thought he did right and filled his tag. Well, the neighbor got mad here recently, the way it sounds. And when that happened, he turned him into the Game and Fish. Here's where the problem starts coming about. Hey, Lynette, glad to have you listening in again, and it is good to be back. I don't know when you sent that, but it just came in on my end. So with this gentleman, a year and a half, possibly 2 years later, because of a complaint from a neighbor that may or may not have been the issue, but he was pissed off because, well, there's deer on this trust and there's deer on this guy's land, and he basically doesn't like the fact he's don't have no access to it. The way it sounds to me that's probably the case. I've seen that here myself. So he called the Game and Fish. They came in, and I don't know how this went about. He didn't know anything what he shouldn't do. They supposedly had, first they come in, guns a-blazing. They didn't call him. They didn't talk to him. They just showed up. Well, even I bet Dan can attest this. When you're running an investigation, I would think you'd want to talk to both parties and get written statements and interview them, and then move on your way. And then you'll just, you probably decide on what you're going to pursue at that point. Well, they showed up somehow with a warrant for the guy's phone, not to enter his property, but for the phone. Unfortunately, when they asked him if they could enter his home, he said yes, which I advise never doing that. Whether you've done anything wrong or not, no, I would never let anybody. No, I would not do it. Go get a warrant. If you got reason to come in, you'll get a warrant. A judge will give you one, and then we can talk. That's the way it's going to go with me. So anyway, this went on, and he answered a lot of questions he shouldn't have. Always why you should always have an attorney present when you're talking to any law enforcement person. And that's my personal opinion, but it is what I would recommend to anybody and everybody. Not that you've done anything wrong, but it's the way things can be twisted in interrogation and interviews. They're trained to do it. They're trained. They're doing their job. They're trained to try and get as much information as you can. So take your Fifth Amendment, exercise your Fifth Amendment, and do not do anything. Remain silent. Get an attorney and go from there. Now, I don't know what's going to happen, but he did this. The phone he had at that time wasn't even one that's being used anymore, but he let them have that phone, which there's just a whole bunch of things that went. It was the whole procedure, the way the Game and Fish showed up. And they came with several guys, the way it sounded, like this guy's a hardened criminal. And he was very pleasant. He didn't, he did it right. He didn't get mad. Probably reacted better than I would have, because I do know my rights. So I'm sure it would have escalated quickly. But I don't know where this is going to go. When you look at the trust lands versus other land, if it's a piece of private property deeded to you, if you have a trust, and I've said this before, if I get a gratis tag, I should be able to hunt the entire place that we own in my unit, of course, without having to list every single piece. Same with my sons. I mean, if you can have one every 150 acres, we have more than that here to cover that requirement. Why can't each of us just get our gratis tags and